John, thank you for joining us today. You and your team are in London meeting with investors. I'm curious how these meetings are going, and maybe you can give us some color on the type of funds you're meeting with also.
Yeah, we've been book solid, which I think is a really good sign that investor interest remains very high. Right across the gamut of specialist funds that have been involved in uranium for several years to a number of new generalist funds that we're talking to. That I say this all the time. They're still very early in their research work. They view this as kind of a mega trend, a long-term secular play, and they continue to do work on uranium and the whole nuclear fuel supply chain. So had a lot of really interesting meetings over the last couple of days.
And in terms of jurisdiction, are they Americans, Europeans, Asians?
It's a real global trend because it is a global trend. With the exception of a few outlier countries, I think the world is really pivoted back to nuclear energy as a solution to meet a number of really important needs. Obviously, energy security and national security and climate change driven objectives are all, I think, taking front center stage in terms of why they're pivoting back to this technology. And obviously, a more emerging theme that's coming out is around grid stability. We saw grids in Spain in the last couple of months fail. People are looking for baseload power. AI data centers is a huge part of this story. These hyperscalers are consuming huge amounts of electricity. So the utilities here, I think they're feeling very good about demand for their electricity, and also electricity prices remain very high. So that's a good environment for these companies to make investments long term.
And when you're meeting with these funds, especially the generalists, what sort of questions are they asking you?
Yeah, they're really trying to understand all the parts of the supply chain, everything from uranium mining to uranium fuel processing to all the companies that are involved in the actual manufacturing and building of power stations. Obviously, there's a lot of new emerging technologies that people are trying to assess to see which ones are going to be the winners in that race to develop small modular reactors, micro reactors, etc.
I was speaking with somebody earlier, and they were sitting in on numerous meetings, and one of the things they pointed out to me was that everyone's talking about nuclear energy. Very few people are talking about uranium.
Yeah, I actually agree with that assessment. There's been a shift, I would say, from, say, 2 years ago when we were here, when it was all about the fuel, and now it's gone down market, which is actually good, because if you want to have more uranium demand and stronger prices, you need to build more capacity downstream. So the focus, I agree with, is actually shifted to all of the interest about building new capacity at the power station level, which will ultimately lead to more uranium demand.
So last year, I'm sure you would agree with me when I said it was characterized by a lot of frustration, because we saw a big pullback in the spot price. 2025, a little bit different. It kind of feels like it's stabilizing and maybe consolidating. Maybe you can give us some color on what's happening, or your assessment on what's happening within the spot market.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that this was a very unusual year. A lot of that was really brought on by the incoming administration. Uncertainty was really the theme with respect to energy policy, the Inflation Reduction Act, tariffs, trade relations, the war in Ukraine. All of those things were big obstacles and created a lot of uncertainty for market participants and investors to make decisions. And I think a lot of that has kind of cleared. We obviously saw the market bottom in April. And since April, we've seen a really strong V-shaped recovery in the stock prices. The price of uranium has come up from a low of 63 to now in mid 70s. And it feels like the uranium price wants to grind higher based on investor sentiment. And I think growing realization that their supply challenges, even amongst some of the biggest and best miners, are real.
So I have to ask you about gold now. Your largest physical trust is the Gold Trust. And gold, great 2024, was up 25%. We got 3 or 4 months left in the year, but gold's up 30+%. Maybe tell us about some of the flows you're seeing into various Sprott products.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a huge win for our clients. Obviously, last year and this year, the Gold Trust is well through $12 billion US. And, we've raised over $1 billion year to date in that fund. I remember you and I sat down at the beginning of the year and we were talking about the Gold Trust, and I said we were really disappointed last year, not in the performance, but how much capital we had raised, which was about 350 million. And I said investors were just not paying attention. Now the fund is up another 30% and the money is finally starting to come in. You know, we want to take advantage of the price action and add more to our vaults. So we've been very active on that fund. And more recently, silver's kind of come back to life and is at a 10-year high. And it feels like it wants to break free and surpass the 2011 high, which was at $50 an ounce. So we're feeling pretty good about uranium, gold, silver, and platinum at Sprott. And we've been very active in all those metals.
So one of the things I really enjoy about Sprott is the wealth of information you have on your website. If maybe you can just talk about that, and investors have an interest in gold, silver, uranium, or very many other products.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be the expert for all kinds of investors, whether you're a do-it-yourself investor or a very sophisticated institution. We want to make ourselves available and our team of experts. We want to share our insights. I probably spend the vast majority of my time on investor education in one way or another. You're a big part of that in terms of helping us get our message across. So we really appreciate that. But it's really important because many investors, and it doesn't matter who you are, have not participated in a lot of these metal markets for the last 10 years. So it's a process of education and research. Where do I get information? I need to make an informed, educated decision. And so we really want to help people through that journey.
And so if somebody has an interest in checking out the Sprott website, where can they go?
Yeah, go to our Insights tab, and we also have an Education tab. There are some really great white papers that we write every month, reports on precious metals, uranium, critical materials. Our podcasts are hugely popular. We have a lot of in-house experts and outside guests that we bring in to help educate investors about these different categories. So that's a really good starting point.
And you and your team are always great at innovating and coming up with new products. Can we expect anything in the near future?
Well, we've been pretty active in the last few months, and we're pretty excited about a few products that we've launched.
Well, John, this was a great update. I want to thank you very much for spending time with us today. Good luck with your meetings.
Yeah, thanks very much.